there's many weird things that Sega does not allow to be known about Sonic, or a lot of weird mandates that they've put in place with our favorite blue hedgehog. One of them was that he is homeless. Sonic cannot have a home. How dare this man have a roof over his head, god damn it. But another weird one is we don't know Sonic's parents. I mean, we don't need to know them, because that's not what the franchise is about. But it is kind of weird that, like, you know, all these anthropomorphic animals who are, you know, canonically teenagers and, you know, preteens, and Vanilla's the only parent we've ever seen. Where's irresponsible parents? What are you doing? Your kid's out here fighting a mass freaking murderer and his army of badniks, and you're just like, it'll be fine as long as they're home in time for dinner. Cool. Of course, again, like I said, we don't need parents in a franchise like this. But it is just funny to think about, right? That they're like, yeah, I'm fine with my kid going out there and fighting everything, you know, that's fine. But there have been a few instances, of course, where Sonic has been given parents. You know, the Storks did not just drop this random hedgehog out the sky, like we are believed in the video games. In certain other canons, Sonic has had actual parents. So we're gonna go over them. Go over the many parents of Sonic the Hedgehog. So let's get it going. The first one, which are the two most well-known, is of course Jules and Bernadette from the Archie lore. So, Jules and Bernie, as she is affectionately known as, they met in school and had many debates. They were both students of Nate Morgan. Nate Morgan looks like this. He is an Overlander. Jules and his brother Charles, who is Uncle Chuck, fought in the Great War. The Great War was a war between the Mobians, which is, you know, your furry little creatures, and the Overlanders, who are the basic humans of the world. Of course, we did a video going over Mobius and all its weird history, so they're not exactly humans, but they're like humans, Overlanders. So during a reconnaissance mission in the Badlands, Jules and his brother discovered the injured Julian Kintobar, who was escaping captivity from his own people. Despite his brother's objections, Jules felt that they should help the Overlander, as he might be able to help them turn the tide of the war, so the two brought him back to Mobotropolis. Julian Kintobar is Dr. Eggman. Yes, we'll do a video going over Eggman's various different identities. I think that is well worth a look into. But anyway, back to Jules and Bernie. During the Overlander siege in Metropolis, Jules is part of a small group of troops that managed to take refuge in the city's underground catacombs, only to be led behind enemy lines by Bernadette. Due to the element of surprise, the task force was able to chase off the Overlanders, defeating or capturing all but the commanding officer of the unit, Colin Kintobar, Eggman's brother. Sometime later, after marrying Bernadette, so they just get married off screen, which is fine. They have their son Sonic, who we know Sonic's name in Archie is not Sonic. That's a nickname. Jules was part of a small task force employed to seek out and recover the infamous historian Kirby. No, not that one. While on the mission, the group encountered a lone Overlander soldier. In his haste to capture the enemy, Jules was caught off guard and received a mortal wound. The enemy troop was subsequently defeated by Bernadette, and Jules was brought back to Mobotropolis to undergo treatment. The only way to save his life was to use the roboticizer. Now, it should be known that the roboticizer at this point was not meant for bad. Right? Eggman makes the roboticizer to, roboticize the Mobians, all roboticize living creatures and turn them into his, robotic slaves and all that. That's not what the roboticizer was meant to do at first. It was meant to help, right? That's what Chuck wanted it to be. He wanted it to help people. But Eggman took it over and made it what it was. So unbeknownst to Chuck, Julian had already tampered with the machine, and upon Jules' roboticization, he became little more than a mindless drone. When Bernie discovered that Julian was using Jules for lab work, she confronted him. However, Julian made Jules capture her and throw her into the roboticizer. So what he did is Eggman was found out by Bernie, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make your husband roboticize you. That is dark as all hell. She too was roboticized and was robbed of her free will. When Chuck came looking for her, Julian lied and said that Bernie was fooling around with the roboticizer and ended up in her current state. Jules was fully aware of what he was doing, but was too powerless to do anything about it. That is crazy. After Chuck restored the free will of Jules and Bernie with a power ring. So power rings in Archie, like I say, rings exist in Archie canon. We went over this with Ultrasonic. But power rings, they give you like a bit of a boost, you know, kind of like how the more rings you get in a Sonic game, you kind of go faster sometimes. Power rings are able to, do extraordinary things in Archie canon. And in the case of a roboticized Mobian, who are later known as Robians, they bring back your free will, so you're not just a mindless automaton. So after Robotnik's demise, the Robians hid in the slums of Robotropolis. Soon afterward, they met their son for the first time in roughly 10 years, though Sonic was unable to accept they were actually his parents due to Chuck having lied to him for so long. So yeah, Chuck lied to Sonic about what happened to his parents and all that. Sonic later presented his parents with wedding bands made of power rings, which prevented Bernie and Jules from losing their free will ever again. When the aliens known as the BEM used their technology to de-roboticize everyone on the planet, Jules remained the only Robian trapped in his robotic state, excluding Bunny Rabbit. Sonic found out that due to his war injuries, de-roboticizing Jules would have been fatal. And that's Jules and Bernie. So after the BEM de-roboticized everyone, which I believe the BEM, if I'm not mistaken, this is what the arc when they tried to make Eggman human again. It's a whole thing, but basically, at the time, Eggman was not human. He was a robot himself, roboticized himself. So this was their way of turning him flesh and blood. I believe that's what this is referring to, the BEM, when the BEM did the whole thing. So yeah, so Jules and Bernie just kind of, they were there now. They were there for their son. They were there, I think a big thing is when, Sally got roboticized, and the whole crew is kind of just depressed, and they're there to comfort them. And that's pretty much it. Jules and Bernie just kind of, they hang around now. Bernadette is human again. Well, not human, sorry, but, she's a living person again. And Jules was a robot. I mean, that's kind of cool. Your dad's a robot. Pretty sweet. Pretty damn sweet. And that's it, Jules and Bernie. There's been multiple different versions of Jules and Bernie as well in Archie. Like, there's the Moebius version of them, where Jules was the king and neglected his son, Scourge. Scourge ended up killing his own father. Awesome. There was one where they were like giant monsters as well, I think, and they killed that version of Jules, and then like the monster version of Sonic picks up his dad's body. You've seen the shot where he picks up his dad's body and then like screams. Yeah. So there's been many different versions of Jules and Bernie as well. But that's Jules and Bernie. They're like the most well-known of Sonic's parents, right? Like when I think of Sonic's parents, people are like, who are Sonic's parents? I default to these two. They're pretty much there. And I think they were fine if we were to bring them in. If we were to bring Jules and Bernie into canon, I think that'd be fine. Maybe, obviously Jules would have to be flesh and blood, not a robot. But, I think it'd be fine if we brought them in. They're like the de facto Sonic parents to me. They are like his definitive parents. But they're not the only. The next one is Sonic Underground. You ever seen Sonic Underground? I have not seen Sonic Underground. I've seen one episode of Sonic Underground, and it's the episode of the exploding baby. Because, of course, that's the one episode I've seen. But I need to watch Sonic Underground. When I do Sonic Underground, we'll have so many videos talking about it. But Queen Alina is Sonic's mother. So, a bit of backstory on her before we get into the actual lore of the show. Queen Alina was originally going to be called Rachel in the first pitch of the show. She was going to be a runaway queen who was forced into hiding after her brother-in-law, Dr. Robotnik, killed her husband, the King of Mobius. Jesus Christ. In an attempt to force Rachel into marrying him. So Robotnik saw that his bro had got him. I'm assuming she still would have been a hedgehog, right? Like, she's not human. I'm assuming when she was Rachel, she's still a hedgehog. He saw that his bro, a bit of a furry, married Rachel, and he's like, I want that. Okay. Like in the final product, Rachel was planned to split from her children for their own safety, but unlike in the final show, instead of working against Robotnik from the shadows, she instead would have worked odd jobs across Mobius' secret. So, let's get to what she actually is in the show. She is the former ruler of Mobius, but was deposed at the hands of Dr. Robotnik. The Oracle Adelphius had informed her that she was forced to leave her children in a basket and give them to 3 separate families. Why the fuck would you do that? By placing them in front of their house and knocking the door in order to protect them. I'm gonna protect them? Okay, right. But her son Manic was sadly stolen from the doorstep of his intended foster family, a poor family living in the slums of Mobius, and was raised by thieves instead. Well, I mean, his life wasn't going to be much better. He was going to be in the slums of Mobius. Metropolis. Throughout the series, Elena helps Sonic, Manic, and Sonya, whose main goal is to find her so they can reunite and form the Council of Four, which they failed to do despite everything. Yeah, so they never actually do it. Along the way, she leaves cryptic messages and clues for them to find, and several times intervenes to save her children. According to a prophecy told by the Oracle Adelphius, the same one who told you to abandon your children in 3 separate families, Alina and her children would one day reunite and form the Council of Four, bringing the end of Robotnik and the restoration of the planet to peace, prosperity, and fun, which they never did because Sonic Underground did not get to actually finish its run. There we go! So in Sonic Underground, Sonic's a prince. And he has a band. That's awesome. I can't give you much about Queen Alina because I haven't seen Underground, but from what I'm going off, she abandoned 3 of her children. Not the best mom. Alina did make an appearance in Archie in 1, which was Sonic Super Special number 10. This whole thing was a crossover between the Archie comics and Sonic Underground, and she has like a little panel there, but the main bulk of the comic was a crossover between Sonic Archie and Sonic Underground, which you could technically see this because Archie's heavily based off of Sad AM. You could technically, in a way, see this as Sad AM crossing over with Underground. The whole gist of the story was that Anti-Sonic was trying to find pieces of the Borg, of the giant Borg, which was scattered throughout different dimensions, and one of the dimensions he ended up in was Sonic Underground. So Sonic and Zonic the Zone Cop, who is an entirely separate video on his own. By the way, alternate dimensions in Archie, because Archie delves into alternate realities and alternate dimensions a lot. They're not called dimensions, they're called zones. Like video game zones. That's funny. I like that. So they go over to Underground, they meet the cast, and they defeat Robotnik and take Anti-Sonic back to jail. And that's it. That's distilling this plot down to its basic minimum right here. So then, next up, we have from the Sonic manga, Polly and Brenda. I had no idea who these two were before doing research for this video. But of course, I'm going to read the Sonic manga one day. Absolutely. And we'll do videos on that. But from just looking at them, pretty cool. Polly is a qualified pilot for airmail, and Brenda's a housewife. Don't let fucking Blue Sky or Twitter hear that. Polly experienced an event where he lost control of his plane, but Sonic appeared to guide the plane back to a safe place on the ground, and not only did Sonic save Polly's life, but he also led him to his future wife, Brenda. So Sonic brought his parents together. How's that for fun? Sometime after this event, Polly would go on to become a pilot for airmail service and would have 2 children with Brenda, Nikki, and Tanya. Nikki is Sonic, by the way, for those who don't know. So, in the manga, Nikki and Sonic are the same person, but Sonic is the future elder version of Nikki, like who Nikki would become, and they swap places. So whenever there's danger, Sonic from the future swaps places with himself from the past. That is insane. And he's got a sister, Tanya. We'll do a video on Sonic's siblings, I think, as well. But then next up we have from the live action movies. Thought I have to just bring them up. Longclaw, Longclaw from the Sonic 1, the live action movie. So Longclaw is the last of the Owl Warriors tasked with protecting the Master Emerald from evil. She lived on a tropical island on Mobius. As an adult, she adopted and raised Sonic. Recognizing the value of Sonic's enhanced speed and valuable powers, she constantly warned him to keep his existence a secret. One day, the Echidna tribe tracked Sonic to Longclaw's home, resulting in an ambush. To save him, she sent Sonic through a portal to Earth. She stayed behind to guard the ring, but ultimately died in battle. After her death, The residents of the island placed a shrine as a memorial regarding her passing, with no one stepping foot near her house due to respect. That last bit, I was like, what? That was established in the Sonic 2 prequel comic. Which, yes, there is Sonic live-action comics, which we'll go over in a video. There was a manga for movie 3, which we'll go over as well. But yes, there is a Sonic 2 prequel comic. I believe there's a Sonic 1 comic as well. So we'll go over them all in a video one day. That'll be fun. And then, of course, Tom and Maddie from the actual movies. Of course, Tom, Donut Lord, head of the police in Green Hills, and Maddie, who's his wife, veterinarian. They adopt Sonic, then Tails, then Knuckles. Probably adopt Amy too. That'll be weird for Sonic and Amy, but you know, anime's done weirder. And there we go. That's all Sonic's parents. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. This hedgehog has one wild lineage, huh? He's royalty. He's adopted. He brought his own parents together. And one of his his parents for a while were robots. That's amazing. It's wild. It's crazy. That's why I love Sonic. So let me know, which version of Sonic's parents do you like most? Do you like Jules and Bernadette? Do you like Longclaw? Do you like Tom and Maddie? Are you partial to Paul and Brenda? Do you like Queen Alina? Let me know in the comments down below who's your favorite Sonic's parents. That'll be all. So thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see you guys on next time.